Hello, my name is Debbie Boone, and I want to welcome you to my podcast, The Bend, where we explore how successful people navigated the path and emerged in a better place when life threw them an unexpected twist. It's inspired by one of my favorite sayings: the bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the curve. These conversations will hopefully help you and inspire you to embrace your personal bend and to flourish. I hope you enjoy it, and if you need help with your own personal navigation and you're in veterinary medicine, please feel free to reach out to me at Debbie Boone to Manage Vets Consulting. Enjoy the bend and be inspired by our wonderful guest. Welcome. Okay, well, we are recording, and so welcome everybody to The Bend. My name is Debbie Boone, and I am your host of this vodcast, and really excited to have the amazing Dr. Sarah Wooten with us today. She's really high energy, and so between the two of us, you guys look out. Here we go. Sarah is a 2002 graduate of UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine. She is a well-known international speaker in the veterinary and animal healthcare spaces. She has 10 years experience in public speaking and media work and writes a large number of online and print animal health publications. She has spoken in the veterinary education space for 5 years. She speaks on leadership, client communication, and personal development. She is also a certified veterinary journalist, a member of the AVMA, has 16 years experience in small animal vet practice. And in addition, and most importantly, she is a co-creator of the wildly popular card game Vets Against Insanity. When it is time to play, she can be found skiing in Colorado or diving with sharks in the Caribbean. Go big or go home is Sarah's motto. So we're going to put her contact information and also the Vets Against Insanity website up at the trailer end of this talk, so we can all I'm going to use them for Christmas gifts. I've decided already that this is going to be my Christmas gifts to some of my clients and friends, and we're all going to get a little insane for Christmas morning. So Sarah, thanks for coming and thanks for making the time, and in the middle of moving and getting your office squared away and all that fun stuff. We talked a little bit before we started to record about purging and how cathartic it is to purge a bunch of stuff when you move. And somebody told me you should move every so many years just to clean out your closets and get rid of your stuff. Mm-hmm. My last move was 20 years ago. And then I moved after 20 years, a year and a half or so ago here. So I had a lot of clutter to purge through. And fortunately, I got rid of that mauve ribbon and seafoam green ribbon that I had stored in my attic and made room for some other stuff. Oh my goodness. So Sarah, I want to talk a little bit about, kind of how you got started and your career path, because that's what the Bend is all about, is like, how do we get where we are and the hurdles and things that we overcome. So was your original goal to be a veterinarian when you were a kid? I mean, that so many of us start that way.
Actually, no, I didn't necessarily want to be a veterinarian when I was a kid. I loved animals, right? Spent a ton of time around dogs and birds and horses and loved all of that, but I never thought, oh, I want to be these animals' doctor. I actually wanted to be either an author or a marine biologist or Indiana Jones. And so I love archaeology. But then I got to college and I don't know, somehow the adult switch flipped on and I was like, that's not practical. I'm going to go to vet school because I'll always have a job. So that's how I ended up in vet school.
That's how you ended up with vet school. Well, I interviewed Cindy Trice not too long ago, and she was hilarious because she said, I had no idea. And when I started to go down the list of majors, when I got to campus, she said, I started at A's and worked my way down. And when I got to C, it was communication. She said, that sounds like fun. I'll do that. And that's how she chose her college undergrad curriculum. And then it looped back around to veterinary medicine later on. So when you made your adult decision and you decided to be a veterinarian, how did you achieve that goal? I mean, you went to UC Davis, but was that in your backyard? Is that your original plan? Were you an out-of-state student?
Well, I went to undergrad in Wheaton College in Massachusetts, but I am originally from California. And so when I was going to undergrad, I wanted to go to Davis. Davis was definitely my first choice. One, because it was the best school in the whole world. Like
Okay.
our claim to fame, we're the best. And then two, in-state tuition. I mean, I'll tell you what, right? So yeah, that was kind of like my only plan once I got to through college. So I'm glad it kind of worked out.
Yeah. Well, my of course, I'm originally from North Carolina. I live in South Carolina now, thus the accent. And my goal was to be a veterinarian, and I applied to one college. And my mom is like, "Are you sure you want to do that? What if you don't get in?" I went, "I'm getting in." So I applied to NC State, and they didn't even have the vet school yet. They were supposed to build it by the time I finished undergrad, and then they didn't. So but then by 4 years, I went, I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to do any more school. So I didn't go to vet school, but I always still, it was in that periphery of what I wanted to do. But yeah, it freaked my mom out a little bit when you apply for one college, and not to mention the fact that she's a huge UNC Tar Heel fan, and we're that is a Tobacco Road rivalry between those two schools. So she's like, "Are you sure you want to go there? Why don't you go to Carolina?" I went, "That's not what I want to do. I don't want to do that." So I'm assuming you got through school, you graduated, and became a veterinarian. How did life throw you a curve?
Oh gosh, how many curves are we talking about? I mean, we're not like that, one of these kind of curves in the road. We're this sign, that sign with the arrow. Yeah,
Yep.
me. So graduated from high school, went straight through college 4 years, went straight through vet school 4 years, promptly had a nervous breakdown like right after that. So I guess it started with September 11th. That was my September of my senior year, and that was terrible. And I don't think that necessarily threw me a curveball, but at the same time, I was getting pregnant with my first child. And so when I went across the matriculation stage, I had I think the biggest gown of everybody in my entire class, because I looked like a 10, right? I graduated, and a month later popped out my first child, right? A month later, and then 2 months after that started my first job at Banfield in inner city Sacramento in California, and put her into a full-time daycare at 2 months of age, and went to work so I could pay for my car payments, my new giant mortgage, because it was before the housing bubble crisis. Back in, it was I think it was 2002 when we bought that house. And I worked in Banfield for 18 months in inner city Sacramento. And so I would get up in the morning, 6 a.m. or whatever, feed my baby, take her to the babysitter, go all day, right? Drive to Sacramento, go all day in this tiny Banfield. I don't know why they do this to us, but they give us these tiny little hospitals that don't have any windows and fluorescent lights, and then just barking animals all day. And so it was intense, man. And I was about a year into that. And every day I'd get home and it would be time to put my baby to bed, right? So I'd see her for 30 minutes. It was terrible. I can't believe I did that to myself. And then about a year in, after, starting the career and having the baby and having the house, and my husband says, I think I should go to seminary. And I'm like, quiet? What? What do you mean? There's no seminary here. We've got a baby. We've got a house. I have a career, everything. And he was like, I think I should go to seminary and become a full-time pastor. And I was like, hello? Are you talking to me, your wife, the baby, right? No. So that was in San Francisco. And he was like, let's just go look at the campus. And I was like, oh, fine, right? totally resentful and resisting it the entire way. So I was like super stressed out at this point. I had had a couple of panic attacks already during surgery. That's a good one.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Because, yeah, because I was
that's
like
not
the only,
something you can just walk away from and go, I need a minute. Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
And we can talk about what that actually looks like in a
Yeah.
second. But I was already kind of feeling fried out a year in. And
Wow.
so we went to San Francisco and we looked at the campus, and it's in Marin County, which is north of Golden Gate Bridge.
Mhm.
And it's beautiful, right? So I was living in Woodland, California, which is flat and tomato plants everywhere and migrant workers. And then you drive an hour to the coast and it's fog and ocean and redwoods and rich people. And it was just beautiful.
It is
And I was
beautiful.
like,
I've been to both of those places, and that's definitely a winner over where you were. Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
so he had scheduled, let's go look at campus housing. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm not living on campus. And we went and looked at an apartment, and it was 2 bedrooms, tiny, no maintenance, no nothing. And I just like stood there and I looked out the window and I thought about how stressed I was. And I just thought, let's do it. Let's sell the house. Let's sell 75% of our stuff. Let's move here. I'll get a new job, right? So we did. We went to seminary, and it was like living at camp for 18 months. I'm telling you, it was us and the Koreans, lots of Baptist Koreans. So like a lot, and a lot of kimchi cooking at all hours of the night.
Oh, that
But
stinks.
oh man, oh,
Stinks.
I mean, they know how to
Mm.
barbecue. They have good potlucks.
Yeah.
But I immediately switched down to part-time because I knew we could afford to live and I didn't have to keep killing myself. And that was like the very first curveball, I would say. And when I started having those panic attacks, I thought there was like something seriously wrong with me, or, what's wrong with me as a vet? Why am I having these? Why am I dreading going to work? What is going on with me? And it was like my body and my mind were just talking to me and saying, you're not doing the right thing.
You're like the
And
poster child for an uneven work life. I mean, you no life and all work.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, because that's what I was trained to do, right? I mean, my parents, I think they're boomers or something, but like they worked 5 days a week, and then they came home on Saturday and they worked on the house or the yard all day, and then on Sunday we went to church all day, and then we went back and did it all again. So yeah, learn from the
Mhm.
best.
Mhm. Yeah, we are the product of our parents. I was talking to my mom, she's 87, and she said, I think I did the best I could. And I said, well, we're all just an experiment by our parents, and we hope that they guess right. And so here we are, and we turn out the way we turn out. And of course, there's other life influences that affect us. And just for me, I think it was a lot of the people I was surrounded with all the time, and my propensity to read all the time that shaped me and took me a little bit further than what I think my parents. But still, I mean, they were business people, and you're right, except we were restaurant business people. Now I see here that you and your husband had part of the Greeley Chop House, and restaurant work is worse than veterinary work because it is all the time and all night and every day and all weekend. And so you really, I mean, it's funny because my husband's father owned a business that closed on the weekends, but weekends meant nothing to me ever because I grew up working most of the weekends, and I came home from college every weekend and worked. So yeah, definitely you learn some stuff in the restaurant business. So how did you kind of morph out of, oh, I'm falling apart here, and let's go to seminary, and now what's next? You're a part-time vet and a mom.
Well, I spent a long time running away from myself. That was fun. But what happened was we played in San Francisco for 2 years, and then Aaron got back in 2006, he got a full-time position in Greeley, Colorado. as the pastor of worship and the arts for a megachurch. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Christian world. Megachurch means huge. It means
Yep.
really, really big church. So there
Yep.
was like, I don't know, 3,000 people or something. And he was like the guy who stands up and and sings the songs and has the,
So
yeah.
he was the minister. He was the music minister. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. They have lots of names, right?
Mhm.
And so song leader, whatever I don't know, they have lots of names. And so the deal was he got the job. I could take a little break and pop out some more babies, which I thought, that'll make me happy. I'll take a break from vet med. I'll make more people and I'll be satisfied. I'll find my salvation there, right? So I had 2 boys like in a row, not on purpose, and kind of was like, I have 2 children in diapers and another one, and I'm not working as a vet. I feel like a failure, and now I'm a mega pastor wife. What is going on? So I remember that when I was a kid, I wanted to be an author, right? I loved writing. So I was like, I'm going to start writing just for my own mental health. So I wrote a novel, like 100,000 word novel. It took like a year, but I finished it and it was awesome. And I looked forward to it all the time. And then I was like, well, could I make money? So I started just taking freelance jobs from the house, just writing about anything, not animals at all, like wrinkle creams and downriggers and wine travel and whatever. I was like, look at me, I'm making money at home. And then a pet food company found me on one of the freelancing websites and wanted me to do their health and education blog. And I went, sure. So I started doing that, did that for like 7 years. And then at some point I was like, okay, this working part-time thing and doing this writing thing at the same time is not going to work. What can I do next? And I was like, well, what about teaching veterinarians? I could do that, So I just went up to the DVM 360 folks at the AVMA conference in Denver, like in 2014. Yeah. And I was like, hey guys, I'm Sarah Wooten. You should hire me. And I was terrified. And the only reason I did it was because right before that, I was walking and I met Marty Becker, who I've had like a crush on for years. And I met him and he signed a book and he gave me a hug and I was like on cloud 9. And I walked by the DVM 360 booth and I saw it and I just was like, I was like this. I was like, and it's like something took a hold of my body and marched me right on up. And I got an interview and they hired me and I wrote for them for years. And that led to lots and lots of opportunities, including the speaking engagement with Vivaldi out of AVMA, which is what birthed this.
Yeah. It's funny the way things play out because first of all, God bless you for being a pastor's wife because that is the ultimate scrutiny. One of my longtime CSRs was a minister's wife, and she's at Baptist, like primitive Baptist, Holy Roller Baptist. And she said, I can't even go outside of my house to dig in the yard in a pair of shorts without being judged. And so I went, better you than me, because I don't do that well. And so that's under the microscope for especially with like a megachurch, that's 3,000 people staring at you. But it's really funny how the people show up when you need them. And one of the things like I really want to talk to you about is the spirituality thing, because I do think that the universe puts people in front of us when they need to be there. And the timing is right? So the fact that Marty, I know I love Marty. Marty's a friend of mine, and we have had many conversations because of Fear Free. I'm on the advisory board, so I'm all about Fear Free. And he's very cool. In fact, he got me a job with Embrace Pet Insurance by going, you need to go and talk to her. Yeah. So he has great influence. When people say, when Marty Becker says, you need to talk to her, people do listen to him about that stuff. So yay. But it's just serendipity sometimes how these things happen. I was managing an 11 veterinary hospital, mixed animal, 24 hours a day. And I happened to get a phone call from this guy who said, we're starting this kind of recruiting company. It's like match veterinary.com for vets. And we saw that you had an ad, and, and so I talked to him a little bit, and then not too long later, his dad called, who had started the, it's almost like a VMG group, but through AHA. And I never met this man before in my life, but we had an hour-and-a-half conversation, Dr. Chuck Kaiser and I, about veterinary medicine, the business of veterinary medicine, the screwy business of veterinary medicine, and what it needed. And so my curve was in 2008 when the economy tanked down. I lost my job. I was laid off. And so I picked up the phone and called this recruiting company and said, hey, I'm looking for a job. And they went, oh, come and work for us. Chuck will train you. And I went, oh, Lord, okay. Because the recruiting company was the son of the guy I talked to about the business thing. And ever since then, Dr. Kaiser has been kind of a mentor to me. And every time we go to a conference, we'll sit down and we'll talk and go, what are you doing? And how much are you charging? And, raise your fees, charge your worth. So he's been that rah-rah cheerleader for me, all because I picked up the phone and took the time to take a random phone call. Yeah. It's amazing how that works that way. Yeah.
It always works that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you have to get old and see it many times before you believe it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Because you see it back hindsight, right? After 15 years, I look back and go, dang, look at how that played out. Really look at how that played out. And, the other thing, I've been teaching for Patterson for about 13, 14 years now. And I was doing some kind of side work when I was managing practices with Novartis Animal Health. And I met Michelle Garcia Winter. And I was actually doing this training thing about change implementation because they were trying to get people to switch from Interceptor to Sentinel, and everybody kept reaching back for the old product, right? And they wanted to upsell them. So I did this change implementation. I met Michelle. Well, when Michelle started to Patterson University, she reached out to me and said, hey, I got something I want you to do. And I went, well, I just lost my job. She said, don't you take a job. I have something I want you to do. And I went, all right. So that all played out too. So that was like 3 or 4 years later that all happened and that all played out. So it's all about the people that come into your universe that change your path, for the good or the bad. I think sometimes, because there are people who can change it the wrong way too, if you're not paying attention and have your head in the right place or looking at the right place. Yeah.
Oh yes, they will send you on different various adventures that you did not want to go on.
Right. Exactly right. So I always ask what was the scariest part of the event for you. So scary walking up to the DVM 360 people. It took a little nerve. It took a little bravery, right? So how do you gather your forces to walk up to something like that and go, I'm just going to take a risk?
I'm telling you, it was the magic Marty. I don't know. I really don't know. A part of it could be that I was already, when your back is kind of already against the wall and you gotta like shit or get off the pot, that's kind of where I was. I knew that I wanted to do more, and I knew that I wasn't going to be in private practice for my whole life. So if I was going to do something, I had to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was a little bit forced to face the possibility of rejection and talk to people that I don't know at all. I was a very neurotic, insecure introvert when I was going through vet school. In fact, I was mortified when I was in my first clinic and they were like, okay, go into the exam room and talk to the client. Get the history in, do the physical. And I went, by myself? And I was on neurology and the resident was like, by yourself, get your butt in there, and I was like, and I remember it was like literally sweating and down inside the white coat. And I was just praying that I didn't have a bunch of back sweat that the client would see. God bless that first client. But you get to where you want your goals more than you want the comfort of staying inside your little box.
Mm-hmm. That's a profound statement. That is a profound statement, because comfort it feels nice, but it keeps you down. It keeps you in places that you're not happy. And you were probably pretty comfortable at Banfield that first
Oh
shot.
yeah.
And then, I mean, it was routine. You didn't have to think about it. It was
Mhm. Mhm.
um, a no-brainer kind of thing. But then when we push ourselves out of our comfort zone, sometimes we feel very vulnerable, right? Because it's like walking naked down the street. You're going to put it out there and hope that somebody likes it. And it's the same thing with speaker reviews. You you get up there and you give it all you got and you put a lot of energy to it. And I can tell that you are like me. I mean, like I'm all over the place, my hands, I'm telling stories, I'm doing stuff like that. And then like 99% of the people go, oh my God, this was great. This was the most fun. And then there's the one, and you're going, were you in the same room with these other people? Because apparently the answer is no, because you need to talk to these people over here, because I'm sorry, I was better than that. But I come to the realization that people have to want what you've got. They've got to be in a place where they're willing to learn. And sometimes if you're teaching them stuff, especially the stuff that I talk about and that you talk about, it makes them very uncomfortable and they're not ready for it. And therefore the lashback comes back to you, because you made them squirm, and I make them squirm too sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. So, how did your work going forward? I mean, you'd written stuff. Was this like a completely new position that you just kind of created from scratch with DVM 360?
Yeah, I told them what I wanted to do, and they were like, yeah, come to conference and play. And so we just started creating content. We started filming silly videos, and then I started writing articles for them. And then I'd gone to probably 2 of their fetch conferences back in 2014. And I was like, I could speak, I have things to say.
So you came a long way from that
Try me out.
introvert in the neuro class.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like terrifying myself, apparently. And so they tried me out in like a little trio, me and Karen Bradley and Doug Aspros. And we just did a women's networking event.
Mhm.
And apparently I did a good job. So then I spent the next 3-4 years shaking off my fear of public speaking. And now, like, I've been doing it long enough to where I'll send my ideas off. And it used to be like, oh my God, will they like that? And now I'm like, you know what? If it's not for you, it's not for you. I have an audience somewhere else. So if you
Mhm.
don't like it, don't pick it up.
It's all good.
And
It's all good.
it's great. It's
Yeah.
great.
There's a freedom to it, right? There's a freedom to it. And I do the same thing. I'm thinking, I'm interested in this. This is something that I want to investigate and learn. And so I'm going to throw it out there and hope that somebody else finds it interesting like I do. And if not, it's okay. I still learned it and it's still interesting to me. And I'll find somebody who I can teach it to. And when I started exploring neuroscience, this was something that I thought, oh, this is so illuminating to me. How can I teach this to veterinarians? Because this is some of the problem, right? This is some of the problem. They don't understand how their brain is working, how the other humans in their world are thinking, and how they're arriving at this information, and what you can do to break this reactivity cycle more than anything else. Let's throw the can of pennies down, right, and distract them, so that we break that reactivity cycle. And then the fear-free on top of it. So when you learn fear-free certification, everything that I had been talking about in human communication and how people acted in the neuroscience was all in the animal behavior. So now I've started teaching a class called the Fear-Free Human, where I parallel our knowledge of animals with the human side of it and go, look, would you go pet this dog? And the answer is no. I went, then why do you go and talk to the human? You need to let them chill out instead of going into that. So And then you can see the light bulb come off because it's something that you're putting the pieces together. And I think that has a lot to do with storytelling. And I know you're a storyteller too, is how do you put something together with relatable, so that people can put the puzzle together for themselves and go, yeah, oh, that makes such sense. And it sticks. That's the other thing, because you can just talk all you want to, but it's making it stick and having it an actionable thing when people go down the road that actually does some good in the world. So
Well,
what
and
was, yeah.
you have to see the results of what you're doing. And when you think about all the hard work that goes into understanding your own patterns and, rewiring and relearning and unlearning all the habits that you learn while you were in survival mode from your parents, probably, and then having grace for yourself to, not beat yourself up when you keep exhibiting the same patterns that you've learned since you were a little kid over and over and over. Like, it's literally the matrix, like red pill, blue pill. When you take the one that makes you see everything, then you just can't unsee it. And helping people understand that their life's going to be better by having emotional intelligence and understanding what's going on with that other human and not getting sucked into it.
Mhm.
And then understanding that they're going to make more money and they're going to be less stressed, and all the relationships improve.
Yeah.
And then understand when you come in and you're in fear and you're like unconsciously projecting that, or you
Yeah.
don't even know that you're in fear because you've been in fear and anxiety for so long, it kind of exudes out of your aura and how that impacts the other person.
Mhm.
Once you get it, it changes everything. And it's
It does. Yeah.
so important. And I think it's so funny because we keep talking about, suicide prevention. Okay, well, let's stop focusing on the suicide. Let's focus on what's going to help us so that we don't get into that mindset in the first place, right? And that's what we need to be focusing on, right?
Yes, 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 yes. This drives me crazy, Sarah. Oh my God, this drives me crazy. It's this poor me crap. You know what? No, let's figure out what it is that we are feeding ourselves that causes us to feel this way. And we got to call ourselves on our own bullshit, right? I think that is just incredibly important because it's easy to wallow
Or play the victim.
and play the victim. Exactly right. Our clients are mean. They don't want to pay for anything. We're very judgmental, but you're failing in your communication and it's not their fault. It is your deal. So it was really interesting. I attended the AVMA Economics Summit, last week before, and some of the data points were extremely interesting. And one of them was, first of all, people don't give us the benefit of the doubt anymore. And then it was all about communication and how we need to change our story. We need to talk about things in a different way. We need to look for, what's valuable to the client. We need to listen more than we talk. And then they asked people how they felt as communicators. Did they feel like they were good at communicating? And only 14% of the 400 people that were on that platform felt like they were good communicators. And of course, I was one because this is all I study all the time. And I thought, this is what gets me. So I've been teaching a communication and service class for at least 10 years for Patterson. And practice owners will send their CSRs, sometimes their managers, and sometimes their assistants or techs. Rarely do the practice owners come, rarely do the veterinarians come, but when they do, it is transformational to the practice when they come. But yet they will go and learn how to do some obscure once in a year procedure, maybe once in a year procedure at a conference instead of something that they do every day, which is talk to people.
Of course. Well, of course, Debbie, working on yourself isn't fun and it's not as sexy as this new surgical technique. And no one wants to do the hard work and change themselves. That's hard. I'd rather just go learn another technique and keep repeating my same patterns.
Yep. Over and over again. insanity, right? Vets against insanity. This is vets for insanity who don't who don't learn to do this stuff. They just keep doing the same thing over and over again, and it's insane. So yes.
And the thing is, I mean, it takes a huge amount of humility to be able to own your own contribution to where you are in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, all of it. And for me, I had to get down to the bottom of like failure after failure after failure until I was able to be honest with myself enough to understand that I was the source of all my problems. And I am the source of my own deliverance as well, right? I am the one I have been waiting for. I kept looking for it out here, but it wasn't out there. It was here. Yes. And the thing is, when I started looking at other people especially ones that I was struggling with or had some sort of grievance against, and I've come to realize in my old age, I'm very good at holding grievances. I had to go through a list of them the other day as part of a spiritual practice. That's all I do. I just hold grievances. I don't even know I'm holding them half the time, right? And I'm like, what? Where? Who? Ah! But once I started looking at everybody around me, especially the ones I had a grievance against, as a reflection of the things I don't like the most about myself, that they were just a signal, from myself outwards, I couldn't look at anybody the same anymore. Yeah. Because instead of blaming them, I was like, this behavior you're exhibiting is revealing something I really don't like about myself. Mm-hmm. And I was projecting it onto you and I didn't even know it, right? Yeah. So that's not easy. That's taken me years, because I have a big ego, big fragile ego, dependent on all of my accomplishments, right? And it's really hard to unwrap your identity from that. I mean, I have friends that have letters and letters and letters and letters and letters. They have an alphabet and they're so unhappy because they're looking for their deliverance and their salvation in all the wrong places, And it's funny because like you say, we talked about me being a pastor's wife, right? I'm no longer a pastor's wife. I'm still married to the same guy, but we got kicked out of Mega Church because I wrote a blog that had the word fuck in it. Me, I did that. Yeah. And some very unhappy lady from the church, got a hold of it and pasted it into an email and sent it to the elders. And then I got sent to the principal's office. That still happens.
There you go. So you've been banished. You've been banished.
Right? Mm-hmm. I've been banned from many things. Yeah. I don't even want to go there, but it had to take that was such a blow to my ego because I was pastor's wife and I had this stuff and I wanted to blame them for everything. I want to blame them because it's so much easier to blame others than take the responsibility. But then I realized I brought that whole thing on myself. Yeah. I'm the only one to blame. I am not a victim. I'm not. And when you take that power back, it feels terrifying and horrible at the beginning. Mm-hmm. But then it's liberating, right? Because then you have taken your power back. And it's not in other people's hands anymore. Mm-hmm. And you care less about what everybody else thinks. You're still kind and compassionate and connected and all that stuff. But your self-esteem is not in their hands anymore. It's back in your hands. Yeah. Right? So I'm no longer a pastor's wife. And I don't know any pastor's wife who would make a game.
Right.
So I'm putting that out there.
The notorious Vets Against Insanity game. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Sarah, did networking help you in your growth? Did people around you help you kind of come to the epiphany where, you were going to write the F word in a blog?
I came to that conclusion on my own. Thank you very much. No, it takes a village to build a person, right? We're not supposed to do this by ourselves. And if you're doing this by yourself without any kind of tribe or support, you're going to make it 1,000% harder on yourself. Mm-hmm. And so over the years, I'm 10 years into this now, there are so many people that I met along the way that have pieces of this journey that I that I would not have been able to do without them.
Mhm.
And so I was extraordinarily fortunate that I was at veterinary conferences just constantly.
Mhm.
And even though I just really wanted to go back to my room and get room service and not go to that stupid, right? Because you're just
Mhm.
tired. I forced myself,
Uh-huh. Mhm.
and in putting myself out there, I was rewarded over and over and over again by, again, the universe, just bringing me the right people at the right time. Now, you can overdo it. I see people who are absolutely frenetic about networking, especially at the big
Mhm.
conferences that we used to have.
Yeah, those,
Um,
yeah.
and and then you're out there, you're hustling for your worthiness. You're just hustle, 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 hustle. Gotta talk to everybody. Gotta be at all the parties. You don't have to do that either. You have to get intuitive, and you have to align with your desires and what you want to accomplish. And then you have to let it go. And then you have to trust that the right people will be brought to you.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you, my friends, I'm old now. I didn't used to believe this shit, but it
Mhm.
works,
It
right?
does. Yeah.
And it's so networking, yes, talking to people, because most people in this profession are so eager to help others.
They are. Yeah, we are a helper profession. And I think once people know what your goals are, and that comes from conversation, that comes from here's what I see, here's a need, here's
Mhm.
how I think I can help, then others will step up and go, you know what, that aligns with my goal and some people that I want to help. So let's put you with them and
Mhm.
let's help everybody. Let's do that. But the conversations have to happen. And I believe in when you said earlier about this energy that you give out, people can feel that. And when I teach a communication class, I said I want you to think, like you learned in your biology class or your science class, that to your cellular level, you are protons, neutrons, and electrons, and all that's energy. And whatever that energy is that you project out to people is what they pick up on, and it's what they reflect back to you. And if your energy is negative or judgmental or aggravated or whatever it is that you're pushing out there, you're going to get that right back. You are. And I think that when we put ourselves or just spend time with ourselves, thinking about what we want, what we believe, what our purpose in life is, that we put that energy out into the universe and things come to you that help you reach your goals, that help you meet your purpose, and people come to you that help you do all those things too, because that's why you're on this earth, is to do good in the world and to enhance, leave it better than you found it. That's kind of the way I feel. Leave it better than you found it. Now, I got to talk to you about the proposal that you sent to AVMA about spirituality in practice. So talk to me about that, because I saw just the synopsis of it and I went, oh my God, I really want to know about this. So tell me, Zen teacher.
So I thank you so much for wanting to talk to me about it. And it goes back a little bit to where I've gotten to a point in my life where I just want to present what is authentically exciting and what resonates with me. And so a lot of the pitches you saw from me this year were like, this is where I'm at, folks. So if you don't want it, I'll find another audience. And one of those was the role of spirituality in the life and work of a veterinarian healer, right?
Mhm.
And the whole concept behind that, obviously, I come out of a kind of fundamental evangelical background. However, that's not where I'm at now. And ever since we left back in 2012, I mean, that's like 8 years ago, I have been on this path where I've studied everything. I've studied Buddhism. I have not studied Islam yet, but I studied Taoism, and I studied Kabbalah, and I studied metaphysics, and I studied New Age, and I studied this, that. I just kept studying. I just looked at everything, right? Um, and what I realized is that we're all telling the same story with different characters.
Mhm.
What I also found was that a lot of the practices I adopted in my life, I call myself an omniist now because I just find truth in all world religions. But what I found was that the secret little spiritual practices I was doing were impacting the effect I had on the people I was working with and the people I was working for and the clients I was working with. And people would say to me, you know, I don't know what it is, Sarah, but when you work, the whole hospital is different. Or I love working with you. Or, oh, Dr. Wooten, I love seeing you. And I'm telling you, friend, I'm not the best doctor, okay? I mean, I'm not. Panic attacks during surgery right here, this right here. I'm not brilliant or anything. It was just that I would bring my practices to work and then I would apply them secretly to my people that were around me. And what I found was that when I would go into an exam room and I would be preparing myself to apply love to the situation and love to the person and love to the animal, versus being afraid of, messing up, or what are they going to think of me, or, oh my God, I don't know if I'm a good enough veterinarian, right? Because we talked about the energies that you give off. But when I went in and I took the focus off of me and I just looked at these people with love, even if they were mad at me or just mad in general, I could literally see them transform during the appointment. And especially like euthanasia appointments, I came to realize over all my years of practice was one of the holiest events that I had the privilege of being part of. I had the opportunity to walk people through loss and grief and facilitate passing over of an animal and facilitate end of life suffering and help people by saying certain things and just having a certain energy and, crying with them and, sitting next to them and listening to a story or whatever. And I came to, when I would have this appointments, I might cry, just so you know, that might happen. I would not know the people at all, but we'd be friends by the time we were done. And I didn't do very much because the technicians would put in the catheters, they would get the estimates signed. I'm literally not in there very long. But when I came in with a purpose that this was going to be a holy encounter that was going to be healing to everybody, everything changed. And I would look at it as a privilege and an honor, and almost like, I was talking to Danny McBetty about this in an interview I did with her several months ago, that it's like a shamanic role, right? We have this shamanic role of passing things over from one dimension to another. And I think we've forgotten like almost the mystical aspect of this amazing job that we do, because we're so focused on the science. Right. And we're so focused on the money, and we're so focused on problems, and I think it's killing us, I think it's killing us. And I think if we could be given some permission to bring spirituality, not even religion, right? Because religion is just a tool. Like spirituality is different. It's just a state of being, if that makes sense. And religion is a doing. Right. But if we could have some more freedom to display that part of our right brain experience when we are going in, who knows what kind of impact we would have? Who knows how that affects those people that we're working with and how they go out and affect other people. And I thought about making a series called Veterinarian Heal Thyself, because of the term physician heal thyself.
Heal thyself.
Because we are a collective of unhealed healers. And we can only do so much good from a state of unhealedness inside ourselves. Right. Yeah. We have to fix what's in here, and then we have to bring that out, and we have to give from that, right? We can't. So that's where all that came from. And then I was also just going to talk about different ideas of ways to do it in such a way that honors people who are of different faith, and is a loving application and a healing application. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. Well, I love that because I do believe that, and I have had many euthanasia talks because I was kind of the front man for a lot of stuff in our animal hospitals. And I've said many times I was blessed in the practice that I grew up in. It was an AHA accredited practice. The medicine was excellent, but the people were even better. And coming from a hospitality background, that was the model that I used to say, let us serve others. This is not a transaction. This is a service to others. And if I was that client and this was my pet, what would make me happy? How would I want to be treated? How would I want to feel when I left that building? And, over time, we built a community in that hospital that believed that was our purpose. There was to serve and be kind and support. And rarely did people say no to the services because we built our trust relationships first rather than dealing with the medicine. The medicine was second, but the trust was first. And within the teams, there was trust of each other, that we knew that we were all on the same page, that we were all going to support these clients in the same way. And over the years, I can honestly say we got more cards, gifts, food, flowers from killing animals than from saving their lives. And it was all in because how we managed the euthanasia visit, how each one of us spent time with people. We had one of our clients write us a poem honoring us. And now I'm going to cry because we were a part of this dog's life. And this is kind of a funny, as a church person, you'll get a kick out of this. So Stuart was a dachshund. And Stuart was the longest standard dachshund I've ever seen, but he was joy on four legs. And he would come into our hospital every day because he used to go to work with the minister and his wife, who was the music minister, until he peed in the sanctuary. Then he was dog non grata and he had to find another place to stay. So every morning, Stuart came to our hospital, boarded for the day. And when they left the church, they came and picked him up. So he was like our dog. He became our dog. So the first thing that happened was we had this swinging door in the front office, and Stuart would come into the dog lobby. We'd open the swinging door. He'd run over. He'd lay down. He'd throw off our legs in the air. He got belly rubs. Then he raced to the very back of the hospital to the doctor's office. If anybody was there, he got petted there. And then he went into the treatment room and put himself away in his usual spot. So Stuart was really a part of our family. And he had had several back surgeries being a dachshund. And the owners were great. I mean, he ate green beans. He was lean. But he just eventually the anatomy broke down, and they decided after like one or two back surgeries that he had had enough, and they were going to put him to sleep. And it was just it was a wake for Stuart in our hospital. And they, like I said, they wrote us the poem. It was the appreciation that they shared with us for sharing Stuart's life. And then they invited our team into the exam room to say goodbye to Stuart, because that was and that was not a rare thing in our practice for those things to happen. And so when you change the narrative to say, let's just run people through here as fast as we can, check boxes off the list, and be this authoritarian talking head that says you should do this, this, and this. And if you don't, you're a bad pet owner. Then we put up an antagonistic
energy field.
Yeah, I mean, it's a conflict and a confrontation rather than let's collaborate. We're here with you. We're your partner. We're going to teach you anything you want to know. We're here to answer your questions, and we're here to ask you questions and find out where you're coming from. It completely changes the dynamic of the practice. So people, I've been preaching about culture for a long time. And this practice, I left it after 19 years. I cried like a baby when I left it, but it was a $25,000 year raise. And so I didn't cry that much, right? And I cried happy tears on the way to the bank. But the staff never left. I mean, there was there was a huge consistency of the staff. And so clients had such comfort coming in because these were people who had been there 20 years, 30 years, 19 years, 15 years. And when I left in 2005, I can tell you that about 50% of the staff, the ones who didn't retire, are still there. That's when you build a culture like that, you don't have to worry about turnover, people leaving, the doctors stay, the clients never complain. Our case average was off the charts. We had a 90% compliance on preventative care. That's how I got my speaking start. Novartis said, damn, can you go show other people to do that? And so when all those pieces are aligned and it's really, you focus on the people, then the other stuff shows up. The money shows up. Everything shows up.
Yeah.
And it's such a hard story to tell business people, it's like, no, it's numbers, it's numbers, it's numbers. I never have been a numbers cruncher, but I've always been a well-paid person. Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
And so were my doctors. In 2005, when I left that first practice, I was a manager getting paid $75,000 a year. Every one of my veterinarians made over 6 figures, and our per case average was $250, and nobody ever complained. So here's the story, right? And why we can't get people to listen to this story, I do not know.
Because it's not, it is evidence-based. You have to have a certain faith level, and when you're so conditioned to just focus on the negative, and you're already, stressed out about this, that, or the other, there's very little room in your psyche for like new ideas or new ways of being or thinking. And we're gonna have to, you just have to start with the vet students basically, because people, you get to a certain age and your brain gets like more rigid, and it gets your opinions get more fixed, and it becomes more threatening to let go of those opinions because they've got you to this point. And we talked about comfort and familiarity. We'll hold on to patterns that are bad for us just because they're familiar. Yes. And we don't understand that we're just holding on to them just because we're afraid of something new. Right. So I think that could be part of it. The other thing is, at least in the industry, as of late, there's never been a push to train people this way, because you got 4 years and you've got a lot of crap to stick in that 4 years, and there's just not a lot of room. And some of this stuff I think can make people hover outside their body a little bit, because it's uncomfortable talking about all of this on an energetic level. Yeah. And that's also mind-blowing to me, because we know about quantum physics now, we know about all this stuff, and we're still treating on a mass level. We're still treating on a Newtonian physics level. So when are we gonna transition and understand that this looks like a solid thing, but it's more space than it is matter? And so how do we deal with that? Yes. Yeah. And again, I know that at the quantum physics level, that theology and science are coming closer and closer and closer. They have this new thing called theophysics, the science and physics of God. They've got God particles, they've got all of this stuff, but medicine is still stuck a little bit in the dark ages, because we're just focusing on gross matter. Yeah. Well, if you go back in thinking about religious healers, and then the laying on of hands, and that's a really blend of the healing and the quantum physics and the energy path, and Reiki healers. I've talked to people who have suffered great deals of pain because of maybe they were in an accident, they were in some way damaged, and they've gone through all the traditional stuff and done all the traditional things, and then finally, of desperation, will go to some Reiki healer, and one woman I know even learned how to do it herself, because it was the only, and she was a nurse, it was the only thing that she ever got any comfort from
and manage to use this energy to heal. And so we even, I mean, if we look at laser, I mean, look at cold therapy laser. It's energy used to heal. And why can't, I mean, we who use so little of our brain and the energy in our brain, if we could learn to focus that energy better, and like you said, to approach things with love, and that's the thing I believe solidly about leadership. You got to love your people first, and then you can lead them. And then when they know that you are doing anything, that whether it's discipline, feedback, coaching, they know that you're doing because you love them, then they will accept the training, they will accept the correction, moving forward. But if they feel like you're doing it for your own purposes, or you're doing it just to be a bully or just to be hard, or then they go into this psychic shell, and you never get the best of people. You never do, because they never feel safe. And until people feel safe, they can't grow. They can't use their imagination. They can't be the best of themselves, because they're always afraid that you're going to hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think as a leader, one really easy thing for you to do is, in every interaction, especially the difficult ones with employees or clients, ask yourself, am I coming at this from a place of loving the other, or am I coming at this from a place of being fearful and defending myself, or being angry, or some negative emotion, right? And you'll know the difference. You'll know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you're in the middle of an interaction and you start to, behave in a certain way, and it starts to not feel great, that's a sign you're not in love.
Right. Yeah.
Love always feels good. It always feels good.
Yeah.
Even if somebody's yelling in your face, if you're sitting there and you're like, wow, man, they're really riding the struggle bus, right? You can still apply love. And so you know whether you're in love or you're in fear. It's not hard. Your body and your emotions will tell you every time. If you take the time to stop what you're doing and ask yourself those hard questions in the moment.
Yeah.
Not easy to do.
Oxytocin versus adrenaline. Which one are you going to choose, right? Yeah.
Dopamine, cortisol. Which one do you want? Which cocktail do you want in your body right now, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So looking back over all this, and kind of, what advice would you give to somebody out there into the world who says, I'd really like to explore this more, or I really feel like I'm stuck in my job and I don't know how to move out of my comfort zone, or I'm stuck. I think I'm stuck. So how do I get myself unstuck?
Oh, great question. So my advice is, kudos to you for heeding the signals that are being sent your way by yourself, your signals that you're sending to yourself, that lets you know that something's out of alignment with who you truly are and what you truly are here to do. And so your job is to follow the signs and figure it out, follow your passion, follow what you love. Take risks, take smart risks. God, if there was any time to take risks, this is it, right? Everything is changing. The whole world is changing. And this is, you only get now, right? That's the other thing, is stop living in the future and stop living in the past. Stop projecting anxiety onto the future and stop dragging situations from the past into your current reality, and just be in the now, because that's literally all you will ever have. Everything else exists only in your imagination, right?
Right.
And I would say you have to get brave. You have to demonstrate courage, and you have to be okay with the idea of failure. If you're afraid of failure, then you need to look at that. What programs are you running? What narratives, what inner critics are in there running the show? Do you have a committee in your head? What's your one true voice, right? And get brave enough to ask yourself why you do what you do. You don't even have to ask yourself, how did I get stuck, right? You can just say, what are the components of the stuckness right now? And what is one thing that I can tackle first that will give me an easy win?
Mhm.
Maybe it's just drinking 2 glasses of water a day. Maybe it's just stopping the complain, blame, vent cycle at your practice. When
Mhm.
somebody else wants to vent and you're like, yes, I want to jump on that. Maybe you stop
Mhm.
that. Maybe it's forgiving yourself for mistakes, right? I don't know, but it needs to be small and it needs to be achievable and it needs to be something that you can do. Just something easy. And then once you get that little success, do something else,
Mhm.
Just do, in the words of Anna from Frozen 2, just do the next right thing, right?
Next right thing.
So, and you have to think about it because you don't want to be 5 years from now still feeling this way,
Mhm.
still doing the same things and expecting a different result.
Mhm.
You want to take action that is inspired and you want to move from a place of love. Um, wow, that all sounds pretty hippy dippy, but that's my advice.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I mean, that's so on point, so true. Um, that if you're thinking about failure, the question is, what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that can happen? And one of the exercises I will typically do in communication and talking about money, any of these discussions, I will have everybody in the room say no out loud. So I'll say no. Everybody says no. I said, do it again. 3 times they say no. And I went, okay, now look around. And they have no idea. And I went, look, nobody died. Everybody heard no and nobody died. And then the answer is always no if you never ask the question. So if you're not happy with your circumstances, be willing to get a no. But what if the no is a yes? And know your worth and be willing to go out and push yourself a little bit and say, hey, but you've got to know your worth and you've got to prove your worth. That's the other thing too, because people say, oh, well, my rent went up. I deserve more money. Show me what you've done. Show me that you have grown as, your skill set has grown. Your communication is better. You've come up with an idea that improves your worth. And at least it does to a business. In your home, how can you prove yourself or be a better person there? And I think that don't hold a grudge. Life is short. This is the only one we got. And all you do is harm yourself when you hold a grudge. You got what? Let it go, right? Let it go. If we're doing Disney movies today. But my husband got very upset with one of his friends when I had breast cancer. And he said, this has been one of my best friends for many years. And he heard through the grapevine that you were sick and he never called me. And I said, that's all right. And he said, but how can you forgive that? I mean, this was supposed to be somebody I was really close with and it mattered. And I said, it, I don't expect much from people. And when they go beyond that, then I'm pleased. But if I'm never disappointed because I don't have high expectations, and that's okay. And then, why worry about stuff? Because when you look back on it 10 years from now and you went, oh, stressed and worried about all that stuff, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it anyway. So why? It'll all play out. And it's just like the pandemic, it's the election, it's all this stuff. People are all up in the air about stuff. I went, look, it'll all play out. It's all in the grand scheme of things. It's a pendulum that swings this way. It's a pendulum that swings this way. But every time the energy changes and it gets better. And if I love history, I study history. And if you look back historically over time, our attention span is short and history is long. And every time there is a great disruption, there's a great improvement. Might take some time to sort it out, but there's always a great improvement. And I'm convinced that this is a disruption that will create great improvement again. We just got to hang on for right now, for today. We'll worry about today.
Well, I'm saying just be in the now. Everything else is something you can torture yourself with psychologically, whether it's regret or anxiety. And you don't need to feel that way. Like, you don't need to make yourself feel bad. Just be in the now. Like, here I am having this beautiful conversation with this beautiful goddess. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And you know what? I'm going to hurt myself by worrying about it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to stay in this moment and be everything I can be. And I'm not going to weigh myself down with fear for the future. No way. I don't have time for that, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to regret things in the past.
No.
I'm not. And when I start to do it, I literally interrupt myself. I go, bitch, we do not have time for this.
Stop that. Exactly. Stop that. And I catch myself doing it too. And that's that emotional intelligence, because we're able to see it and stop it. And that's training and practice, over the years. And you're right. The older you get, the easier it gets, or it should get easier, because if you become enlightened that you can do this thing, and you practice it more, and you become more easily able to diagnose your emotions and say, we're not going there. We're not going to let that play out. What am I thinking? What's the story I'm telling myself?
Is it true?
Is it even true? No, probably not. Probably not. Sarah, so any final words of wisdom, any thing that you would like to share, like favorite books, or obviously we got to talk about, we'll put some websites up, your website. One of the things I do love on your website, and I complimented you on this, and you said you're getting ready to trash it and change it, but you've got almost a mindfulness exercise on it. And it's about being in the present and feeling, the clothes on your body, the weight of yourself in a chair. That is very much being present. And I think it's a great exercise. And so I would suggest that people take advantage of that, especially if they're feeling in any way, shape, or form stressed out. And it's just to go and be present and exercise those tools and tips that you have listed out on there, to calm their mind. You can't be productive with an agitated mind. You need clarity of thought, and your mind needs rest and peace.
Absolutely. And the only way we're going to get ourselves out of this is by calming ourselves and making space for new solutions to present themselves. Because when we're focused on and resonating at the level of the problem, the solution doesn't exist at that level. It exists someplace up above it. So you have to kind of just step back and take some space. I would say, my parting thoughts. I waited way too long to prioritize myself. I waited way too long to believe in myself. I waited way too long to kick my toxic habits that were just hurting me and dragging me down. I waited too long, and I suffered a lot more than I needed to. And if you're feeling any of those things that we talked about, then it's a time. This is the time for you to start digging in and doing the work and healing yourself, so that you can show up in this world in the way that you're supposed to, not in your survival mind, not, just hanging on, but you're here and you can give us the gifts that you were basically sent here to give us. As far as, and that looks different for everybody, self-care looks different for everybody, but you are your most important asset. So invest accordingly and don't feel guilty about it. Really, really hard to do, especially if you've been conditioned since you're tiny to feel guilty, but you just have to let go of it. As far as books go, the one that I'm reading right now that is really transformative, I'm gonna just pull it up on my Audible, is by Richard R. Dawkins. And his big book was Power versus Force. He's a PhD and an MD. And it's this one, Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender. Wow, guys. I mean, if you're really interested in changing your life and changing your patterns and getting yourself in a place where you can feel happier and more successful and less stressed and better relationships and better health and all that book, I'm telling you, that has been one of the best things I've read to date. It is challenging. So be prepared to be challenged, but also be prepared to be transformed. So that's what I have right now.
That sounds awesome. So one more book added to my book list. My book list is insane. And I think, I used to travel and listen to Audible books, and now I don't travel anymore. So my book reading is greatly diminished, and I'm suffering because I love to read books. But anyway, thank you, thank you, thank you a million times. This has been one of my most favorite conversations, because I love to, every now and then you can find somebody who will take it to this esoteric level. And I'm like, yes, this is my people. This is my girl. So yay, we have explored the universe today. So I really, really appreciate being able to talk to you about that. We will put all Sarah's information in the end of the vodcast, and be her information will be available to you. We'll link to the book that she recommended, and look for her when we get back on the road, speaking, writing, transforming others to have better lives. So thank you so much for joining us on the Bend today, Sarah. I appreciate it.
100%. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.